Hi, I'm Brian Elve, the Executive Director at Guiding Light, and you're watching The Rebound with Coach Matt Doherty.
Welcome to The Rebound with Coach Matt Doherty.
Welcome to The Rebound. I'm Matt Doherty, and I will be your host. On this show, we explore remarkable rebound stories of resilience and recovery. We highlight the leadership qualities that emerge in the face of life's toughest challenges, revealing the strength and determination within individuals that inspire us all. With me today is someone that understands leadership. He's the executive director of the Guiding Light program in West Michigan. Through his guidance, that organization currently has provided the single highest success rate helping men achieve sobriety of any program we know of in this country. 12 years ago, he was instrumental in creating a contemporary sober living community called Iron House. Through his leadership, Iron House at Guiding Light has produced hundreds of long-term sober and productive men in Michigan, bringing them back to life. I am honored to welcome Brian Elve to The Rebound. Brian is recognized as the author of one of the country's most successful drug and alcohol rehabilitation programs. He's led Guiding Light for a dozen years. The recognized success of the program has inspired the organization to open a women's program. He is a former standout basketball player, which always is welcome on my show. Brian, thank you for being on the show. Tell us about Guiding Light's recovery program.
Well, first of all, thanks so much, Coach, for having me on tonight. Yeah, Guiding Light's about 95 years old, been around Grand Rapids for a long time, and kind of originally started with what's known as a gospel rescue mission, where men could find housing, emergency housing. And over the years of programming, one of the things we noticed in the data was that addiction, first of all, was always a part of programming. So this idea of men struggling with addiction has been a part of Guiding Light and trying to help them. And then we said, what's the common thread that keeps people kind of coming back again? The recidivism rate was really high. And so we realized in the data that people were having issues with drugs and alcohol. It was keeping them stuck. And it was like they would get a little traction doing something, and then they would kind of go back to that old behavior. So about 12 years ago, we really doubled down on what does it really mean to have a top-notch recovery program. I myself in recovery have been in some recovery programs, and I'm kind of one of those guys that when I'm at some place or watching something, even a basketball game, a speaker, I'm kind of like, what would I be doing if I was, in those shoes? Right. So I was kind of thinking about it. And when that chance for me to lead Guiding Light happened in the recovery program, I was scared, I was excited. But the point is, we said, how are we going to do this? And over these 12 years, we've developed some methods that we just have had a lot of success and really excited about what's happening.
Well, tell us more about the methods and where did you how'd you discover these? Did you go look at other programs, either, within our country or internationally? Did you do some research? How did you uncover these new options within Guiding Light?
Well, to be honest, I rarely have an original idea. So I'm kind of one of those guys that likes to kind of like borrow stuff that other people are doing. But a lot of it comes from my own kind of personal journey also. So I don't want to give the impression that we have some methods that have never, been tried before. But when it comes to recovery, one thing I noticed in recovery programs was everything was about addiction, the brain, all that kind of thing. And most of the people we serve have taken a shot at recovery before. And so at Guiding Light, we started asking questions like, who's the kind of man you want to be? And this is going to sound really simple, but who's the kind of man you want to be? And if they said something like, well, I want to be a good father, we would simply then say, well, what are the behaviors in your mind that consist of being a good father? This isn't, it's not rocket science, but no one really ever asked those kind of questions of these men.
How about that? I'm going to jump in. And you played basketball, and we grew up dreaming about playing like a certain player, dreaming about playing on this certain court, playing in this certain environment. we're wired to think that way. And it's kind of like you're coaching these clients to think in those terms. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, you just took me back with what you said to I think it was my freshman basketball coach, and he was asking me who my favorite player was, and I can't remember. It might have been some. I don't think it was
Matt Doherty, of course. It was Matt Doherty, of course. Right.
Well, maybe not after I explain what this coach said to me. So
Okay.
whoever it was, I think you'll know where I'm going here in a minute. Whoever that player was that I was trying to emulate, he looked at me and said, Brian, you're never going to be, you don't have the athletic skills that player has. So why not emulate a player? And I think at that time, Bird was kind of in his heyday. You can learn to shoot maybe like Bird. You might be able to learn how to pass like Bird. So why not emulate someone that you have the ability possibly, like I wasn't born 6'9", but I think you know where I'm going with that, right?
Yes.
And that was eye-opening for me. It really was. So
yeah. Tell me, like, it's almost like don't run from something, run towards something. Like run towards being a good father, run towards being a good Christian. And these are the behaviors, a list of them that that these people do. It's almost like, and I know you've talked about journaling. I journal now, and I struggle with it for a while. But the affirmations, I do a morning anthem where I say 10 things to myself, like today's a good day. I'm the CEO of me. Momentum is messy. I am a good executive coach. And as goofy as that sounds, I think that gets your mind right for the day. It sounds like you might be doing something similar with these men.
Yeah. So one thing we do with all the men, and again, the women's program started about 4 months ago, and they're doing the same thing. But when I speak about guiding light, sometimes I'll just use the word men, even though we're serving women now.
Yep.
Every day of the week, then we all get together at 7:25 a.m. Monday through Friday, and we do our morning ritual as a group. And that is simply each man gets in the circle. When it's their turn to speak, it's what are you thankful for today? A specific thing. And then what's your stance for the day? So, I'm always paying attention, like what's important to these men. And I think, some of the stances men had today, I'm just remembering off the top of my head, one was connection, one was love. And I'm thinking these are grown, ranging from 20 to 60-year-old men in this circle talking about they want to take a stand for the day around things like connection and love. And, it's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah. You're saying stand, right? Take a stand of the day?
Stand or stance for the day. Yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yep.
I've never heard that. That's very interesting. How is this paid for? Like if I'm, somebody struggling, is this cost and you call them clients. What does it cost a client to be in your program?
Yeah, we typically refer to them as participants. But yes, so we are very fortunate. Grand Rapids, Michigan is an extremely philanthropic community. And it really was helpful that we had 95 years of kind of founding in Grand Rapids. So we're blessed to have donors that make this opportunity for men and now women because this program is free. What I tell people is, it's no cost to the participant, but there's a cost, and that is your commitment. And sometimes the commitment is actually tougher than, having the money. So, what good does it do for someone to come to a treatment, no matter how good it is, if they're not ready to change their behavior and kind of change their lifestyle?
Yeah. Wow. That's powerful stuff. Well, let's go to break. And when we come back, Brian is going to discuss the most significant rebound of his life. OMJ Clothing is an elite men's clothing store that provides a vast array of spectacular brands of men's lifestyle apparel for every day. Elevate your business upscale casual at OMJ. Success comes from standing out. The Rebound is sponsored by Sector Spider ETFs, a unique family of exchange-traded funds that divide the S&P 500 into 11 sector index funds. You can buy just the sectors you like or customize the S&P 500 by weighting the 11 sectors to meet your financial objective. Please visit them on the web at sectorspiders.com. That's sector, SPDRS.com.
Alps Portfolio Solutions Distributor, a registered broker-dealer, is the distributor for the Select Sector Spider Trust.
Brian, tell us about your rebound story.
Yeah, well, Coach, I showed up here at Guiding Light. I lost my teaching job. I lost my home. I lost, money was no longer, I didn't have money. And I think the one that maybe hit me the most was my parents told me like they were done. They did not want to communicate with me. And, my mom and I were always, my dad too, like we were pretty close. And it really, I show up at Guiding Light. It's never heard of it. And I was like, my life's over. I'm never going to have a real job. I'm never going to this is who I'm going to be in life is, all these behaviors I've done. Just like, this is my punishment type thing. And, I was depressed and I think I needed to be humbled and understand the reality of the person I had become. Mm-hmm. And Coach, I was so self-absorbed. I was, I was kind of what I would call an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. And that's the thing, right? I thought that was the thing. And I thought once I stopped drinking, like my life would just kind of magically change. But then I realized that it was a symptom of something much bigger. And for me, Coach, like I was so afraid to connect with people. I kept people at a distance and I operated under fear in a lot of my life.
How old were you when you went to Guiding Light?
44.
Oh, okay. Had you been married or kids at that point?
Not married. I have an older son. When I went to school in Montana State, I have a son.
Right. What was the lowest moment at that time?
Well, Coach, there's a lot of them, but the lowest one at the time I mentioned, I forgot to say that a friend of mine died right next to me or a bed over from me from alcohol poisoning the night before. And the cops came. I called the cops. They took me into the police station. They wanted to make sure there's no foul play. And so but the thing I need to say though, is I had been kind of fighting addiction off and on for about 15 years up to that point. So I would get sober a little bit, do some things different, and then I would get kind of sucked back into it. And, on my own. I'm not saying people sucked me in, but I did.
What was the first time you got drunk or high?
First time I got drunk was probably a junior in high school. But when I was my freshman year playing basketball at University of Detroit, I got kicked off the team. We were hanging out at a place in St. Louis, and the coach me and another player, he said, listen, we don't want you in the squad. You're flying back to Detroit today. And I lost that scholarship. And I thought my life was going to end then. And I didn't put it together that I drank differently than most people.
How so? How did you drink differently than most people? Well, one's too many and 100's not enough?
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Do you think your competitiveness as an athlete was bad for the habit of drinking?
Without a doubt.
Yeah. I faced that. I faced that. Like I'm going to be a better drinker than you. I'm going to beat you. You're going to drink a 12-pack. I'm going to have 13. And a friend of mine once said, one's too many, 100's not enough. And I'm like, yeah, that was me. It was either all or nothing. And so, it took me to waking up on a porch at the Jersey Shore one summer to realize I had a real problem and I needed to go get help. And that was 34 years ago. I hadn't had a drink since. Wow. And, the thing that I want to address, your life's impacted by three things: the people you meet, the books you read, and the trauma in your life. And you talked about the trauma of your parents basically kicking you, out of the family. That was traumatic, and you hit bottom, and now you had a chance to rebound. Tell us about the process of rebounding?
It was scary. Like first of all, I never would have guessed my life could look the way it does today. So I didn't see it. I didn't see the possibility there yet. It took some time for me to even conceptually, see that as a possibility. But I think it was my first year sober. I was in a coaching class, a life coaching class, and one of the instructors tried to give me a hug when we walked in or something. This was down in Chicago, and I looked at him and I said something to him like, don't ever touch me, some type of macho,
Tough
and
guy. You're a tough guy. Yeah.
Intimidation, however you want to put it. And he brought that up to the class, and in this class you had to kind of talk about yourself, and they asked me the question, why are you so afraid to let people love you?
Wow.
And coach, I broke down. Like I didn't know what was happening to me internally, and I was scared, but I was a mess. And I needed to kind of acknowledge the fact that I was a mess before anything else could kind of change.
Yeah. Yeah. You talked about earlier, you were afraid to connect, and you covered that up with the machoism and the drinking. Why do you think looking back now, why were you afraid to connect? Where did that insecurity come from?
I mean, I don't think anybody's asked me that question, and I'm not sure if I know the answer. I think so. Sports gave me a lot of identity of doing something well, and as that started I kind of knew there was something missing, and I grew up in a Christian home, and I struggled with that. I felt like I was never good enough for God, never good enough for Jesus, never lived up to that. And that was always a battle for me. Like, I need to be a better person. I need to do all these right things. And I always fell short. Grace made no sense to me. I still struggle with that. And I think it affected my relationships and the desire to hide. I wanted to hide.
Yeah. The thing about athletes, right? We compare all the time. I'm taller than you. I'm faster than you. I can jump higher than you. I'm a better player than you. Our team won. Always the standings, the points per game. And comparison games are the work of the devil, and the devil is working, right? So now you think, okay, basketball's gone. What's filling that void? That is my identity, and now I'm floundering, and I could never be a good Christian because I have these thoughts or I have these habits. And I started to say, because we were ranked 5-star players, right? 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, 2-star, 1-star, and I said, I think I'm about a 3-star Christian. And a buddy of mine, Bruce Stankiewicz, who went to seminary, said, no. You're either a Christian or you're not. And that gave me a piece that, we're not perfect, right? I mean, we're all flawed. The only one who's perfect, they hung on the cross. And that gave me a peace. And I imagine that you found some peace to help you on the road to Rebound.
Yeah. And even living here at Guiding Light, I was here for almost 8 months. And trust me, the facilities aren't, they're not 5-star hotel like. It's a little rough.
You went to Fork Union in Virginia. You're used to that.
Right. And I had some peace I think it was my 3rd month here that I'd never experienced before, ever in my life. And I think I realized that I'm not the athlete. I'm not just a son. I'm not just I'm kind of all those things combined, but that God's love is real. And I think I felt it for the first time.
All right. Now this goes through my head and maybe the minds of the audience. Did you then reconnect with your family?
Yes. Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, I got a quick story for that. That it might even just, I guess, depending on how I'm doing, like it still gets me goosebumps. I was at my parents' house. Both my sisters were there with their 2 kids, and they were, under the age of 10 then. And my sisters came to me that day, or I think my mom came to me, and she said, "The girls are okay with you driving the kids home." And this is about a 45-minute trip. And I broke down then too, because I knew if they were willing to let me hold those kids in that car, that some trust like had really come back. And I did some work. I did the ninth step of men's of the 12-step program, and so there had been. It's not like I was just sober a year and then this all happened. Like there were some stages to this, but that was such a powerful moment for me to know that my family, like, okay, we're in this with you. And wow, I see those moments today at Guiding Light, and I'm telling you, there's nothing like I don't care what sports accolade you could give me. Like I'm telling you, it is so much more powerful, at least from my sports experience, than any sporting thing I've ever done, is to see families reconnect.
Beautiful story. As you look back on your life, you had this vision of playing basketball and being an athlete, and then, we make plans and God laughs.
Right.
What is God's purpose? I'm an executive coach, and I talk to a lot of people, especially the ones that are getting ready to retire, right? They sell their business at 50. Well, what are you going to do now? What is your purpose? And when you find that purpose, it brings you peace. So tell us what your purpose is, Brian Elve.
Well, on an individual level, I'm still this idea of love. And man, I want to love my wife. I want to love those 2 young kids I have. And I want to be, love for these guys, because a lot of them have gone through more trauma than I have when it comes to family. And to think that I might be the best example of a dad to them, or, it's real life. It's messy. It's complicated. It can be ugly sometimes. But man, to think I'm just a small part of these men changing or these women changing is a gift I didn't know it existed for me.
Probably better than any scholarship you could have received to college, right?
Yeah.
God's working through you. All right, last question. What question, Brian, should I have asked that I didn't?
Maybe just the impact on the United States when it comes to addiction issues. I don't know if anything can be as divisive for a family like we just talked about than addiction, but it's an epidemic. It's a crisis. And coming out of COVID, there were a lot of statistics that alcohol sales had reached the highest it's ever been.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the latest statistics on people with substance use disorder, the latest stats say that between 12 and 18% of the population over the age of 12 has a substance use disorder diagnosis. And that's, 3 to 4 people of your 20 closest friends are struggling with, they might not know it and they might not be talking about it, but it's happening. So it's a huge deal.
Brian, thank you for joining us today and sharing your rebound story.
Thanks, Coach.
Leadership is a learned behavior. We all lead in some way, shape, or form. We all deal with adversity. And when you do, I challenge you to rebound. I challenge you to learn and grow. If you'd like to contact me, you can reach me at dohertycoaching.com. That's DOHERTY.com. Thanks for tuning in.